Do you have any sources that former soft guys are heading down there to train?
These people are directly being taught by US ex-military. There are cartel operatives who can operate anti-drone technology, drop IEDs, set up a minigun, but they're also using technology that is not typical warfare technology. They got Pegasus from Israel.
Why don't you think she wants any intervention?
Because she wants Mexico to stay Mexico. She doesn't want to see American forces coming in. She doesn't want Mexican people to feel like their own government can't deal with it by themselves. And
Don't they already feel like that?
100%. But you can't admit a loss. Another point to that is to protect people who are in her administration who have narco ties.
Does she have narco ties?
100%.
100%.
I believe she definitely has narco ties.
What makes you believe that?
She's with the Morena party. So many political figures in this party have now, just recently, been sanctioned by the US, had their visas revoked by the US, have been tied to shell companies in the US that are cleaning money for the cartels. Mm-hmm. This was the most violent Mexican election in the history of Mexican elections. Why were people dying at the polls? Why were armed men showing up to voting stations and destroying the ballots and the ballot boxes? And then prior to her, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the previous president of Mexico, who basically took Sheinbaum and put her up and said, everyone who voted for me, vote for her, and she won by a landslide. No one has ever voted by that margin in a Mexican federal election ever before. He had been reported to have received a significant multi-million-dollar payout from the Sinaloa cartel.
Wow.
So if you have this party that just has so many rotten apples, you're telling me it's not spoiling the bunch, and that the main figurehead of this party, the president of Mexico, who could, if she really wanted to, say, fuck the cartels, we're ending them. Everyone is suffering on both sides of the border and globally. Okay, we are going to crack down. And that's not really happening. It's a soft stance. It's certainly not as soft as her predecessor. His slogan was abrazos no balazos, hugs not bullets. She didn't take that on, which I think was great, because what do you mean? You're gonna, it just didn't, it made no sense. But do I think she has narco ties? Yeah, and people come for me a lot when I say that, because they say, you're just shitting on a president who cares about the Mexican people. I think if she really cared about the Mexican people, the cartel crackdown would be to the next level.
I think if she really cared about the Mexican people, it would be a positive to get the U.S. in there to help solve this problem.
And then the U.S. has this watch list of narco politicians. A source from your government actually gave me a few names. I published that list, and then exactly a month later, one of the people that I had on that list, which was the governor of Baja California, Marina del Pilar, her U.S. tourist visa and her husband's were revoked. And there was no reason given as to why. But there's certainly an investigation going. She's also part of the Morena party. And then the governor of Sinaloa, Rubén Rocha Moya, who, a lot of people who seek the truth have beef with him, because he has been a part of a lot of shady dealings. And how is your state going to erupt into this war zone where the cartels basically control every aspect of politics, law enforcement, and daily life for the citizens, and you're sitting high and mighty as if nothing is happening? Everything is okay, and the U.S. names him, and the president of Mexico goes up in public in her morning press conferences and defends him. Says, no, he's doing his job, and honestly.
Wow.
And look, people can say all they want, well, maybe she doesn't directly have ties with narcos. Okay, but if she's defending the very people who are under her administration, does that not make you just as guilty? I mean, tell me about your integrity and your responsibility to protect the citizens of the country and ensure that they have a solid quality of life while protecting the very people who are ruining that.
Have you heard of... I've heard a lot of rumors that former SOCOM and JSOC special operators are going down and training Cartel. Have you heard that?
Like, not part of the Green Beret program, because there is a program. The U.S. does train Mexican military, and then they kind of form their own.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about guys that have separated from the military that are going down there
and directly training cartels.
Yes.
Yes.
How much of that is going on?
If you go to Tamaulipas right now, it borders Texas and Mexico. There are cartel operatives who can expertly show you how to put together, arm, and put a minigun on top of a vehicle and use it like an expert. Mm-hmm. And that isn't common knowledge. And that isn't something that, like guerrilla warfare teaches you. These people are directly being taught by U.S. ex-military. I've heard, and we were talking about this on the way here, Israelis, people who know how to use high-level arms and know a fair bit about high-level warfare tactics. If the cartels weren't trained by these very people, they would not be able to function at the level that they are.
Do you have any sources that have told you that former SOF guys are heading down there to train?
Yeah, particularly in Mexican states that border Texas. There are cartel operatives in Tamaulipas who will blatantly say, the gringo taught us this. Or do it the way the gringos do it.
Well, that's terrifying.
And that has to do not only like with the miniguns, but the IEDs that they have. Their IEDs now are just next level. Drone operations. They're using drones that now, initially, they were attaching bombs, IEDs to the drones, flying them in, and then the whole contraption would blow up. Now they're doing it in a way where the drone goes in, it drops the IED, and then the drone goes back out, and they're saving a lot of technology by doing this, right? And it's making it, it's fast tracking the operation. They were taught by Americans.
They were taught by Americans how to do that too.
Yeah. And with the anti-drone technology. That came from overseas. Well, that came from abroad.
They have anti-drone technology?
Yes.
What kind of anti-drone?
They have, so I wish I could show you the video of it. They have like the big drone blockers. So if there is a drone flying in the area, they can completely disable that drone and make it, have it cease to function.
Wow. What other kind of tech are that? That's where I wanted to lead into.
Okay.
Warfare is changing at a astronomical pace.
They're at a point in their warfare where they've never had this level of access before and expertise. They have technology that you would never have imagined cartels to have. I mean, with the amount of money and access they have to certain people and expertise, certainly they can do this. They can learn how to operate anti-drone technology, how to use drones multiple times and drop IEDs, how to set up a minigun. But they're also, they're using technology that it's not typical warfare technology. So even in certain regions, they have like cell phone blockers, but just set up throughout the town too. So you walk in and all of a sudden either your phone doesn't work or it's immediately tapped. Even the way they're putting Pegasus on people's phones.
They're putting Pegasus on people's phones?
Oh, Mexico, and particularly Mexican journalists, it's like you are the number one victim of having Pegasus on your phone.
No kidding.
Yeah. They got Pegasus from Israel.
You want to talk about Pegasus real quick?
Yeah, we can talk about, Pegasus. It's like the number one phone hacking technology, and it doesn't take anything at all. It's literally, I get a message on WhatsApp. If I just press on that contact that sent me the message, Pegasus is now in my phone, and they have access to everything, all of the data, even the metadata that's in my phone, and can track me, can listen in to me, everything. And just recently, actually, the Mexican president's phone was hacked. It was a phone that she said she never used, and it was just like a personal phone. But if you're able to hack the president's phone, anyone is at risk. And Mexico is a main consumer of or user of Pegasus technology.
Who are they deploying all this stuff against? Is it cartel on cartel for the most part?
No, it's anyone that threatens their operations. So, of course, yes, they're cartel adversaries, but politicians, law enforcement, journalists, even sometimes people who are working for them, their own straw buyers, people who they feel like they can't fully trust. Stay Frosty put some Pegasus on his phone.
What about the drones?
What about the drones?
Who are they deploying that on?
They're deploying the drones against Mexican forces. They if there is an operation that's going down, they know Mexican forces are going to be in this area. They will even trap them. So lead Mexican forces, this happened not so long ago, an example of this, lead Mexican forces to believe that a key figure is here or a key lab is here, and they will arm that location with IEDs and have drones ready to go in there. Mexican forces will get there and they get exploded.
Okay, so they hit them with IEDs and then do a drone swarm.
Yep.
How big are the drone swarms? Any idea?
It really depends on like which cartel is operating this, but for the most part, they're not that large. They have just like even just like regular drones. They're using like even like the DJI drones, or they're getting the drones from China that are like a knockoff version and attaching bombs to it and just dropping those in. And you'll even see videos of when they're flying, they're kind of weighed down a bit.
So nothing like 100 drones coming all at once, like some of the
No,
stuff
it's
we're
not to
seeing in
that
Russia and
extent.
Ukraine.
At least not yet.
How far out do you think we are before that starts happening?
It depends if the U.S. puts boots on the ground in Mexico. Because I don't think Mexican forces will ever push it to a point where cartels feel like that's how hard they need to hit them.
You don't?
No,
You don't think so?
no. There's too much at
Crazy.
risk, and there's too much for them to lose. I think, something that really stood out to me
What's the risk? What do you mean there's too much for them to lose?
for Mexican special forces to be at risk of danger. I was going to say, when I was in Sinaloa, they had just, the day that I got there, we went to the base and they had just brought in reinforcements for National Guard. And a lot of the people were very young, and they were literally coming into a place where they were ready to face the cartels head on. I mean, every night it was just like, you would just see the fireworks, the shootouts. In the morning, there would be dead bodies lining major highways with notes, sending messages. And so these guys were coming in knowing that they had to take on a very desperate cartel head on and try to stop some extreme level of violence with very little experience. They were very young. And some of them looked so nervous and even fearful to be there. And if there is that level of fear, then when you ask me, are these guys going to go in and take them head on to a point where the cartels will completely amp up and you have 100 drone swarms going in there and just taking out Mexican forces? No, because I don't think the Mexican forces would get to that level. I mean, hugs not bullets was a policy for so long that now to switch that up and go have the pendulum swing to the exact opposite, where it's like, no, we are going to take them on. I don't think the people who are in the forces, I don't want to undermine it, and I don't mean it like this, but I don't think the training and the morale is even there to be like, I'm going in to die for this. We're taking these guys out. So no, Mexican cartels won't likely, unless U.S. forces come into Mexico, get to a level where they believe they have to completely amp up operations where it's like Ukraine, Russia style, simply due to the fact that Mexican forces aren't going to push them to that level.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.